from a debt-free business owner to a recently debt-free college graduate, what are 3 tips that you would give to anybody starting life after high school?
Make a budget. Absolutely make a budget. Show up to work on time and quit buying things that you don't need.
Welcome to this edition of the Hoel Truth Podcast. Today, I believe this is the first time we've had a guest back, Miss Zoe Mann. So the reason I wanted to have Zoe back was, you know, if you listen to us at all, if you know me at all, Dave Ramsey, debt-free, blah, 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 and some people get annoyed with it, but she went through college debt-free, and I always hear people say I can't do it. So like we've been staying in touch over the last few years, and then you reached out, you're like, hey, I'm done. I've done this. And I was like, all right, let's get in the podcast. Took us a little longer than I wanted to. So I guess I just want to talk a little bit about that just because like I was stressing the importance of the 2 17-year-old boys working for me. And I was talking to
Good. I'm glad you were.
The one guy's dad. And he's like, hey, Blake came home and said, you told him he needs to save his money. I was like, yes, because Blake's like, I need a diesel truck. And I was like, you're 17 years old. You don't need a damn diesel truck, Blake. So take some time, kind of tell us how you got there. Because like, I want you to share that you actually worked, because I know there's an illusion out there that you don't have to work to do that. But, you've had to.
It does happen for some, but
right.
On the diesel truck thing, though, I know I always like the boys that had the diesel trucks and stuff. And so I know one day I'm going to have a son and he's going to come home and be like, I need $10,000 so I need this money. I know I'm going to fight it one day. I'm preparing myself mentally already. But I'm Zoe. I'm 21. I graduated debt-free. I have my bachelor's degree in business administration. I'm so proud of it. I sat down with one of my girlfriends. Courtney Jackman was one of them, and my friend Annika Marlowe.
You gotta hang out with better people, but we'll have that conversation later.
We were sitting down, and they were like, and I was like, I'm like really proud of myself, and they were like, yeah, you should be, like. And Courtney's joking, and she goes, this wasn't always like in the cards for you, like you.
Okay, so I gotta tell a quick story on Courtney. So when me and Emily start doing our debt snowball, 12 and a half years ago. So how old are you?
I'm 21.
So Courtney's 21, 22. So Courtney was about 10 or 11 at that time, okay? And me and Emily went back to dumb phones because at that time, like,
that's so cool.
Bill difference was like, it was half.
It's insane, yeah.
And I remember flipping out my dumb phone. And Courtney was probably 11 or so at that time. And here she has a smartphone. And here's little Courtney. And I love you. And you know this, Courtney. But she starts just ran her mouth. And I thought Dr. Rob was going to knock her out because he was so proud of what we were doing.
Yeah.
And he was old enough to kind of respect it. And there's Courtney just over there flapping her jaws. And like, it didn't offend me because I was to the point that nobody could annoy me on that. Like, I wanted it so bad. But yeah, that's my funny story with Courtney.
We can laugh about it now, and me and Courtney can laugh about it now, but I went through middle school with her.
Yeah.
So I have the worst of the mouth.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. I believe it.
But I love her. I love her to death. Yeah. But so we were sitting there, and she was her and Annika both were like, you should genuinely be proud of this. Like, this is a big deal. Like, they were like, Courtney mentioned, she said, like, I got help. Like, I knew, like, if I want to go to college, like, I could just go to college. Right. Like, it wasn't, like, you didn't know that you were going to do that. And also, I had really bad grades in high school. Like, Courtney, I told her I'd give her a shout out. She's the reason I passed Algebra 2. She sat next to me the whole time and was like, dude, you've got to try harder. You've got to, come on. Like, you know how to do this. Try harder, do it. And she did. She's one of the reasons I got through Algebra 2. And she had pointed out to me, like, just recently, hey, like, because I've always had a lot of guilt. Like, I was such a bad student. Like, I don't understand why I was such a bad student in high school. And she was like, you had other stuff in your mind going on. You were dealing with other stuff at home. Like, it's tough. Like, I have so much empathy for high schoolers, especially if, it's tough. Like,
so what was your GPA in college?
I want to say like I think my IU GPA was like 3.8.
And then what was it in high school roughly?
I think a 3.2.
Okay, so it was better. It wasn't, you were, I thought you were going to tell me like a 2.4 or something like that. But like I've also heard that people will say that you'll do better in college because more of the classes in college are in your chosen field, so it's a little easier to enjoy it and get used to it. So,
and I will say,
how long did it take you? Go ahead.
No, you're okay. In high school, I hung out like I do. This was a good thing I did. I tried to hang out with kids who were smart and could talk to people. I try to hang out with like good kids,
right?
Like, not
anymore with Courtney, but okay.
No, but she was smart. My friend, I had a group of girls and guys that were just like good people,
right?
And it helped me because just like in Algebra 2, instead of her being like, "Oh, dude, don't do it," like Algebra 2 sucks. Right. She was like, "Hey, wake up! You need to pay attention. Who you hang out with really matters."
So what? How long did it take you to get your degree?
It took me 3 years.
It took you 3 years.
Which is unique. It's a 4-year degree.
Right.
And it wasn't...
So you worked, got done in 3 years, and graduated debt-free. Like, okay. I just want to make sure we're clear here. So one thing that I've learned, so we sponsor the Ramsey class in several schools. Connorsville does a fantastic job.
I wanted to speak about that with
you. Michael Thompson is the teacher over there, and he always shares with me every spring on how many kids are graduating. And I mean, they have multiple, like one year, I think he said 33 or 37 kids got their associate's degree the day they walked across the stage to get their high school diploma. So did you have any dual credits like that, or were you starting from scratch?
It was similar, but not quite.
Okay.
So I know absolutely I know several guys and girls who I'm friends with now who went to Connorsville, and they had that set up where it was, oh yeah, we're going to put you on the path from freshman year to where you're going to get a debt-free associate's degree, which is awesome. That's so cool. And then they only went to college or a state school or whatever for 2 years. Right. That's incredible. That's awesome. I didn't have quite the same. I think I had like 3 or 4 ag classes that transferred over.
Okay.
Because when I was in high school, and like Courtney, I think, and Annika, that group, a lot of them, I think, took maybe like a chemistry class that was dual credit, but nothing that was like, oh, you're going to have an associate's. Mm-hmm. I don't know anybody that I graduated high school with that also got their associates.
Right,
like the College Corps, Indiana College Corps.
Yep.
I don't know anybody that went to Rushville in my graduating class who had that set up like the kids in Connorsville did. I'm so jealous of that. Right. I think that's so awesome. I think Rushville's doing something like that now, or they're starting.
More on track.
And they should.
Yes.
Absolutely. I would much rather see that investment made into the kids than, a new football field or anything like that. Like,
well,
truly.
and I do feel like kudos to the high schools. I do feel like there's been a shift on when I was in school. It was just like they really looked down on you if you weren't going to university right away. And now, I mean, they've made a really good shift of trade schools, smaller colleges, Emily always tells the story that she went to Ivy Tech. She felt like a loser. She felt left out, not going to IU, Bloomington, or Purdue, and there's nothing wrong with any of them colleges, but there's also absolutely nothing wrong with not going there either, so, and I think it's just because people from Ball State like to tell you when they went to college but Adam was the only one I used to have, that even was smart enough around here to have a degree.
Right.
We've hired a couple since, lately. But he always talks about Muncie and Ball State, so that's why I can always remember. Like Jonathan has a degram. I have no idea where it's at. It's on his wall. Yeah. But other than that, like I kind of remember what it's in. But as somebody that hires people every month, or I try to at least, like I don't give a rat's butt where the degree came from. Like
absolutely.
Somebody that can speak, somebody can get stuff done. Like, somebody that wants to hustle, somebody that wants to grab a part of the business and own it, Adam in tech, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, so. I learned this at a previous position I was in. Ownership was such a huge like pillar of success where I was working at that time. And I love that. I'm like, I remember that. Like, I'm like, ownership, take ownership in where you're at. The people that I work with now, I call them my members, our team have that ownership feeling and mindset.
Well, it's when you're a leader, when you own a company, it's like the people that should get a promotion or should, like, they're growing, they're asking, they're already, you're really almost already doing the next job before you get it.
Absolutely.
If you really want it, like, you know, how can you make it better? How can you grow this department? And then that's going to bring opportunity. If you've got the attitude, well, you've told me to do these 6 things every day, and that's the only 6 things you're ever going to do, then, you know, you're not going to grow. So so did you work full-time part of the time, the whole time, never? What did your work schedule look like?
I had a lot of up and down, and I knew that, I think, going into it. I remember my senior year of high school, I sat Mr. Orm, Blair Orm, I told him, I was like, I'm not going to go to college. And he was like, well, like, why? I said, I don't have money. I'm not smart, and I don't know what I want to do. And he's such a patient man and very much just like, okay, think on it. He plays therapist really well with you. He's very good at like, okay, go home and sleep on it.
Right.
Come back and tell me and I'll come back and be like, okay, I'm thinking this now. He's very good at that. And I remember, you know, just over time, and I did the Dave Ramsey class that you sponsored my senior year of high school when I was going through these decision-making times. And I was like, oh, I think I have a plan. And so I decided, like, hey, I like business. I like the business classes I was in. I like the idea of me working in an office setting. And I was like, so I should probably just, like, get a business degree. And then I was like, I remember touring the Ball State campus even. And I remember being like, this is kind of cool, whatever. And then they gave me the pamphlet of, like, how much it costs. I was like, it's not that cool. Sorry, Adam, but it's not that cool. I genuinely was like, it's not that cool. But, and I ended up being like, you know what, I'm going to do Ivy Tech. And I did. And I went in person for probably most of my classes at Ivy Tech. I went to the Richmond campus some. I went to the Connorsville campus some. I went to the Columbus, Indiana campus. I loved it.
So what was the price difference per year, if you remember what Ball State was compared to Ivy Tech?
I mean, I know it was tens of thousands for sure. Okay. But I mean, I wasn't paying I didn't have to have housing expenses with Ivy Tech. I commuted. I paid for my vehicle. I paid for my gas, that stuff. I paid $2,500 each semester, or no, it was either each quarter or it had to have been semester. It was $2,500 a semester at Ivy Tech. And, like, also keep in mind, I never wrote a check my first, I believe, 2 years. So you had
scholarships for that? Okay.
And again, I wasn't smart.
So you were smarter than you're leading on then, at least, if you got some scholarships.
It wasn't necessarily that. It was, I could talk to people. I had experience in life. Like, I could sit down and write, hey, I went through this growing up, and this is how it changed me. And if you can write that on a scholarship application, and I'm not saying, like, lie or anything or embellish, but just be like, hey, I went through this, and this is how it changed me. If you're able to have that kind of insight, people want to give you money for that.
So it gives you a little bit of insight. I'm pretty sure when I lived on campus at Ball State, it was about $30,000 or $35,000 a year.
Any idea what that was housing compared to tuition?
I want to say room and board was probably 15 to 18 of that.
So half.
Give or take. Because when my senior year when I lived off campus, it went down to like $18-20 a year for tuition, and that was dominantly because I was in all of those like super upper level classes too. Right.
Oh, so he was smart.
Yeah. So, and I mean, and that's crazy because that's been several years now. I mean, really. So, like,
and I'm sure it's increased.
So, I mean, like, if it's 20,000, instead of 4,000 or 5,000, like 6,000, like, and like, I went to Cincinnati State. I was very fortunate. My stepmom worked there. Mm-hmm. I got free tuition. I had to pay book fees, lab fees. Now I also had to drive to Cincinnati from Glenwood. Yeah. Once again, that cost some gas money, but $100 in gas or, $20,000 for like, yeah. So
it evens out when you do the math.
But really, like, and literally I was just having this conversation with Blake, and like, if you set your mind to it, you can do it. Like, you can come up with a million reasons not to be able to do it, and if you have support where your parents can pay for it, grandparents,
that's
like,
awesome.
Like, whatever. I don't want to like knock that down, but it's also like, we put so much pressure on kids that you got to know what you want to do. and well, you don't know what to do, so just go borrow it. And the problem is we've given the money so freely that they can just keep jacking the rates up. If people truly paid cash for it, like the rates would be way more competitive, because it'd be like, okay, is it worth this? I have
a friend who he went to college, and he went to he did it very reasonably. I don't think he borrowed very much. He has a great job now, and it was like a trade school situation, but he's paid his loan like nothing like that. But his loan got sold to another company, and he's like, how does this happen? How can they do that? Like, I signed, like, hey, I just need, X amount of dollars, and nothing crazy, X amount of dollars so I can pay to live in this place in Ohio instead of, like, it's awful. Like, you are truly at the mercy of the collectors, of the, lenders. Like, if you can avoid that.
Well, and like as an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old, like, you don't understand that true bondage,
you're tied to it.
Yeah, and
it's not going away.
And like, they say we're a little slower than females, but I think the male brain doesn't fully even develop until you're 25. Yep. So there's still hope.
I think that's right with women too. It's something along that.
I feel like 25. Women, technically, it's a little closer.
I think I'm there.
Yeah. So, but I'm just like, the crazy thing is, like, we'll let a kid go in $100,000 in debt, and the brain's not even, fully developed, and
to console anybody who's like, oh, but, I don't know what I want to do. When I did the Ivy Tech classes, when I started it started out as, oh, hey, the first semester, I didn't even really necessarily have a degree path per se. It was, we got something in the mail, or some kind of thing, some kind of promotional thing came across my eyes. Ivy Tech was like, hey, this was in summer of 2022, so I don't know what things are like now. It was like, hey, if you just graduated high school, free Ivy Tech classes for you. I was like, oh, free? Like, I'm working 40 hours a week, but I could take these classes online. It's like, why not do that if they're free?
So what? So how long were you at Ivy Tech before you kind of started a career path, I guess?
Well, I would say, I think I was probably at IU East before I was like, okay, I think I know what I want to do.
So what is your degree from Ivy Tech in then technically?
It is business administration.
Okay.
It is. It's an associate's degree in business administration, but it just kind of developed and when I finally was like, okay, I'm going to get a degree, in my head I was like, I'm going to get this degree in my associates because I can pay cash for it, and then I'll just say I have an associate's, that's cool, and then I'll go find a job. I'll figure out what I want to do. I was working the whole time still. But then I got done with my associates, and I was like, oh, I could do this. Like, I can make this happen.
So how long did it take you to get your associates?
A year and a half.
Okay, so you kind of split. Okay.
And I did summer classes too, because like I said, like they had the free summer class promotion, and I did get scholarships from Ivy Tech, and it was, I applied. They invited me to some kind of a luncheon down, I think it was in Bloomington, and I got honored for some kind of academic team, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I'm not smart, but I truly excelled at Ivy Tech. It was the experience I had there. They build their curriculum to where it's for real people.
So my dad,
working people.
my dad always said that, like, my dad beat it in my head. I was going to 2-year college. I didn't really have a choice. And like, I guess as parents, I guess you don't realize as much influence as you have on your kid. Like, I've watched people that I know, like, kind of be forced to go to this college by their parent because it's a prestige thing, that my kid went to Purdue or my kid went to IU.
Which is weird.
Like, I
don't like that.
Like, I'm sorry, but when they're 18, if you're still trying to live through them, like, there's a problem.
Yep.
But, so I really didn't have an option in my head, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
And so it's just, you kind of look back, but it's then again, like, okay, how do you encourage your kids that you can do it debt free? And and Miss Baker, which is now Miss Sliger, unfortunately is still not teaching at Rushville, but she was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, she believed in it, and we're fortunate to have several schools that teach it. However, like, she probably believes in it, as much as any of them, if not a little more. And that is very beneficial to you guys because
I'm a product of it.
Yeah,
truly.
like, literally, like if your parents and, unfortunately, some parents don't want to talk about that kind of stuff.
You need to talk about finances with your kids, with your partner, with your kids. That's,
Yeah, so at least when there's a teacher in there willing to talk about it, and a shout out to Will that teaches at Greenfield Central. He's taught our class for a few years, and he came from the real world, I call it. And, they had a student that after going through the class, after coming in to me and Emily talking to him, she chose Ivy Tech over IU and saved her tens of thousands of dollars.
Cool.
Literally going to save her $100,000.
You will.
But so my dad always said that technical college, community colleges were, he said that he's seen people that had master's degree flunk out of Cincinnati State. My dad, his backstory is he's farmed, had 2 back surgeries, had to get out of farming. All he knew was farming, so he went back to college after he had some kids. And he said he watched people with bachelor's and master's degrees flunk out of the community college because he goes, back then, as many moons ago, he's like, the big universities, you could just go to 3 or 4 classes the whole semester, and if you knew what to study for that test, you could get by. He's like, at Cincinnati State, you had to go to every class, and he's like, some people just couldn't. But like you said, it's like, it is truly that the working. And then as an employer, like, I just need people that understand that we got to get stuff done, know? So what, so outside of Miss Baker, the Dave Ramsey class, like, was there any other adults, parents, grandparents that, kind of kept it in line, like wanted to help you down that path, anything like that?
It took a community for sure. Like, I definitely don't want it to be like, oh, I did this all by myself. Like, my parents never did anything for me. Like, it's not that at all. I'm very blessed. And I was a very unique situation. And my parents, we were very low income when I was like a senior in high school. I tell people all the time, I remember buying my prom dress for my senior prom because, like, I had to. Like, that was just part of it. And my parents, they were like, do whatever you want for college, do your thing. But like, they couldn't cut me a check. Right. They couldn't cut me a $25,000 check. Right. Most people can't. Right. If you can, that's awesome. Like, if that's cool, but like, they couldn't. And so that's why I kind of made the decision. And then I started at IU East and I had some scholarships. Ivy Tech gave me $1,000 every semester to go to IU East to continue, which is cool. I mean, that's insane to me that another college cut me a check so I'd get my bachelor's degree somewhere else. Like, it's just cool. But I will say my parents, when I was at IU East, they were able to help me a little bit more financially. So they would help me with a couple thousand here and there for tuition, but I still worked. Right. I worked about 36 hours a week probably when I was at IU East. And then I didn't pay for housing. I wasn't living alone. My boyfriend, who I am still with, he's been great, and he has made a lot of sacrifices and he has said this to me, like, hey, like, you're going to do this so it's going to better our future, our family, our future family. Like, this, like, we'll do it. Like, we don't need to be in debt for this. Like, we'll get through it. And so there was definitely other people making sacrifices with me. But I think it was worth it. Well,
and I mean, what a lot of people don't understand is, like, it's that sacrifice to have to pay for your senior pictures or your prom dress that, like, it comes back tenfold when you get older, because I'm 38 now, and literally, like, I know 2 grown men in their 30s that are still dependent on their parents to pay stuff. Yeah. Full-time jobs, married, kids, and it's like, it's heartbreaking. And then, then I see an 18 and 19-year-old or 20-year-old, like, go do something like this. So, that's I don't know, as a parent, I don't want my kids to suffer, but I also know the importance of just learning lessons.
Absolutely.
And figuring some of it. I just seen a meme or a clip the other day that said young boys need, I can't remember, I'm going to draw a blank now that I'm on camera, but pretty much young boys need responsibility.
Yeah, they do.
Like, they need chores to do and that kind of stuff to just it just matures them and helps them so much. And I really wish I could remember, what the heck it says. But no, I mean, and when I went to college, like I didn't even know who Dave Ramsey was,
right.
And my wife did the same thing. My wife came from a lower income family.
Mm-hmm.
Like she got a lot of Pell Grants. Is there still Pell Grants?
Yeah, I had a Pell Grant.
Okay.
I didn't have a large enough one to pay for the whole thing, but I remember I think I got about $1,000 a couple semesters for a Pell Grant. And when your tuition is $2,500 for a semester, if I didn't have any other scholarships, like, okay, I worked really hard. Like I could cut a check for $1,500 to pay for that because I worked hard and I saved my money and I didn't do this or I didn't do that. And
so what were some sacrifices that you did? Because I mean, that's another point that I just want to kind of talk about because it's, when you got to pay for stuff yourself, like maybe it's not a new car, maybe it's not a spring break trip or something like that.
Yeah. And I definitely made sacrifices and I'm thankful enough to say like, thank God, like I'm in a different chapter in my life where I'm not having to make sacrifices quite the same way as I did when I was 18. I'm very thankful, very blessed that I'm lucky I'm in the situation I am in, but I also worked for it.
Right.
I remember being a senior in high school and I was working 2 jobs. I had an after school job and then I had a job at a restaurant over the weekends. And I remember missing out on so many parties and hangouts, and I didn't get to go do the senior camp out or something because I was working, and I just remember being so lonely. And I was like, man, this stinks. Like this, I'm lonely. Like this sucks. And even like you said, Emily felt that way going to Ivy Tech. You're kind of lonely. Like it stinks, but it was so worth it. Like I remember. And I didn't make crazy money busting tables at a restaurant, but I made some more money so that every little bit helps. Like, I don't know, I can't emphasize that enough to anybody, especially like my age. Like if you have a side hustle, do it, please. Like,
well, and that's another thing is like, it's that hustle, it's grind, it's the consistency. And that's the secret of life that nobody wants to admit. Yeah. Like it's every day or every weekend. And like when I remember when I was a sophomore, me and my brother worked for Paul Fry, Emma Tressler's technically her parents and grandparents, and Lee would milk cows all day Saturday. I mean, we'd get there about 8:00 on Saturday and we'd do the evening milking, get done about 8:30. And then Sundays we'd usually come in like later in the morning, not as early as Saturday, but we would milk practically every Sunday night also. And it's like, there is stuff that, you miss out on and you think, and, you're going to even laugh even more in another 5 or 10 years. Now you're just like, like when I preach to these, and poor Brody and Blake are just going to be,
I'm glad you're doing it. I'm so glad you're doing it.
It's just like, I'm like, guys, in 15 years, you're not going to remember or care two craps about what that person drove because it doesn't matter now, like, and well,
I was watching, I have Snapchat, of course, like every other 21-year-old, and I was looking at my memories, and it was like 3 years ago today, and it was a selfie of me, and I'm like drenched in sweat, and I was in a pig pen, and somebody had hired me to clean pens at their house while they were gone at a show and took care of the livestock that was still at home. And it was awful and terrible. And but it was hard work. It clearly was. And I made like $500 that week. And I was like, this is awesome. And I put it in my savings account. I didn't touch it. And I was like, I'm going to Ivy Tech. If I need $500, if a scholarship doesn't cover part of my tuition, like I have another $500 I can put towards that. Like it was. And then I look back now and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that again. Like I know.
Yeah, but it just builds.
But I did. Like I laugh at it. I'm like, I can't believe I did that.
It builds so much character though. And that's just like Brody and Blake, like Blake's dad is like, do you ever just want to run him off? Because there was a couple of nights he was at our house until like 11:30 helping with stuff.
Cool.
And Emily's like, oh, absolutely not. There's always something to do.
Awesome.
To do at our house, and it's like, see them boys hustle, like it's the easiest thing, like just, hey, go do that. Instead of me go do it, like I still want to.
Right.
But it's like, no, just, just go do it. Like, and they're both working for the roofing business now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, guys, when you come to do side projects at my house, make sure you've got everything done with Jonathan, please, because this is the most important,
Yeah.
They're literally at my house right now running skid loader, packing a pad for a
Cool.
barn
That's
right
awesome.
now. But like, there's opportunity out there. If you look for it, if you want a debt-free degree, you can do it.
Yeah.
And if you want a side hustle, like, I promise you, like, them two 17-year-olds, I would put up against a lot of 30-year-olds because, I mean, they've got the work ethic. Like, I'm sorry, that is the secret now. Like, even 15, 20 years ago, like, the competition was higher. Like, now it's just show up and do what you're supposed to do. And, like, you look like a rock star. It's like, I almost wish we had a little higher standards. Yeah.
I work in finance, and ask anybody, ask Courtney, ask my boyfriend. He knows I'm terrible with especially mental math. He likes to joke with me all the time. He's like, what's 8 times 3? And I said 36. And he was like, that's not right. I tried. I gave it my best shot. Yeah. He did that to me the other day. Wasn't very funny for me, but he loved it. I'm not very smart, but I genuinely, I love to build relationships with people. I care about people. I can talk with anybody in a room. I can talk in any room that I'm in. And I show up to work on time. And that's literally all you need to have a pretty good job.
Well, and I mean, and you need to give yourself more credit because you are smart. There's a book by Patrick Lencioni, The Ideal Team Player, and it's Hungry, Humble, and Smart. And really, the hungry is pretty self-explanatory. You got to want it.
Yeah.
The humble of, like, you got to be willing to listen and learn. But the smart part is more like people smart of like, can you carry a conversation? Can you look them in the eyes?
Absolutely.
We just got done hiring a content creator for the business, and like, this is gonna sound bad, and hopefully the wrong person don't watch this, but writers can be a little dry and a little, like, have some energy, whatever you're doing. Like, there's Adam loves tech stuff here, okay? If I had to do that stuff, I'd be the grouchiest there'd be out there.
I don't know what a VPN is, and I don't want to figure it out. I don't want to know.
And it's funny because sometimes Emily's like, Adam, come and fix this. I'm like, Emily, leave him alone. He's doing stuff for me right now, But, like, genuinely, like, if it's content writing, it's business management, like, enjoy it because we had an interview. We were getting down towards the end of the interview process, and we were really leaning on the way we went. And I was like, let me kind of spot check this one over here just one more time just to make sure we're not in a rush. And like, I interviewed him right after we had just had another interview with who we hired, and the energy level was just like, and I looked at Emily, I was like, that's the right way to go. Let's do it. Let's quit dragging our feet on it. So I mean, it's kind of like the Dave Ramsey principles. It's simple. It's just
really is.
It's not easy. Like, there's days that you want to go back to sleep. Maybe you don't want to go into work so early, or maybe you don't want to go to the gym so early, or, whatever that looks like. So